Welcome to You Can Do It Too, a podcast highlighting regular folks who followed their dreams and made it happen. I'm Joan Hutchinson, your restaurant maven. I've been described as a risk taker, though I never thought of myself that way. My mom always told me I could do or be whatever I wanted as long as I set my mind to it, and I believed her. I ran a successful catering company that led to owning and operating a top 10 Orange County restaurant and catering venue prior to earning a bachelor's degree in business management and marketing. You know what I learned by going to school after all of that? You don't need a degree to accomplish your dreams. You need drive, passion, and a belief in yourself. You also need some caring folks who support you and believe in you. I didn't need a formula to tell me how to properly staff for a week. I needed common sense and a deep care for creating outstanding dining experiences for my guests. I've been coaching and consulting with salespeople and small business owners for the last few years and blogging with business advice. I just wanted to do more, to reach more of you. I decided to talk with folks I admire, who kick ass at what they do, to show you that you can do it too. Welcome to You Can Do It Too, the podcast where we talk to regular folks who followed their dreams and made it happen. Today, I'm speaking with Brianna, a wedding and portrait photographer in Orange County, California. She captured her first wedding in 2009 and completed her Bachelor of Fine Arts in Creative Photography from Cal State Fullerton in 2010. After working a few years, she partnered in someone else's company. In 2014, that partnership came to a difficult end, forcing Brianna to start her business over from scratch. The next year, she launched Shy Heart Studios and began building a team. Over the last 8 years, she's grown her business from a one-woman show to a team of 13. After the pandemic, her team captured 96 weddings and 45 family portrait sessions, making that her biggest year yet. Congratulations, and welcome, Brianna Shrader.
Thank you.
Woo!
Hi, thank you.
Hi, thanks so much for joining me today. There's a couple reasons why I'm excited to have you on the show. Number one, you're my niece, and I'm very proud of you. So thank you for being so awesome. You're an inspiration to me and lots of people, I'm sure. I love your story because you hit some hurdles, but you just kept going. You didn't just survive, you innovated, and you grew. So you were working as a photographer in the beginning. What made you want to go out on your own and be part of that partnership?
So, it sort of kind of fell into my lap. I got my first job, oops, just lost an earbud, sorry. Right out of college and with a photographer, and I started out just working for her as an editor and a photographer, and our relationship sort of evolved. And ultimately, we decided to partner on a kind of two different businesses, primarily photography based. And it, it was kind of one of those things where, like, I saw the red flags from the beginning, but it seemed like a good opportunity, and I didn't really have any other experience, so I just kind of kept going until I couldn't anymore, and had to make the decision to sort of, I guess, venture off on my own, which was really scary.
Right. Scary fear. That's a big thing, right? I mean, everybody's afraid. There's something, I say everyone's afraid. They say that courage is not being afraid. It's just being afraid, but doing it anyway, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that, especially for me, and I'm sure for many people, sometimes you just get to a point where you have to sink or swim. And if you're left with no other choice, you're going to swim. Like, you got to survive, right? So, and I was sort of kind of put in that position where it was like, okay, it's time to, like, put up or shut up and get it done. So, yeah.
Yeah. So So then that partnership came to an end, and what made you start Shy Heart Studios and not just go work for another photographer?
So I think a lot of things. I think that through that experience, I just realized that if I wanted, I learned a lot about what not to do in business and how I didn't want to treat people and how I didn't want um, what I didn't want my name associated with. And I felt like the best way to be able to put my message out there and the best way to do business the way that I felt was the right way to do business was to do it on my own. I also, that ending of that partnership was not amicable. It was pretty rough. So I think that I actually had more fear of getting stuck in another situation where I was working for and with somebody that I didn't see eye to eye with. And the best way to avoid that was to just do it myself. I had this moment of absolute panic when it all went down because I had essentially no portfolio to speak of because under this partnership, my work was owned by this person
A
and
little
their
bit like
company.
Prince.
So exactly. So I couldn't use anything that I shot for that company to advance myself. So I remember calling my mom and being like, I, I might have to get a real job. And she was like, don't you dare. And I was like, well, but what do
Oh,
I do? I don't know how I'm supposed to do this. And she goes, well, I don't know either, but you're going to figure it out. So I was like, okay,
I
thanks.
love that.
Yeah. So, and she was right. I did. I figured it out. She didn't, it was funny because I go to my mom for everything. And I was like, I don't know what to do. And she's like, I don't either, but I know you're not getting a real job.
That's amazing. And were you living by yourself
Yeah,
at that time?
I had lots of bills to pay.
So
And go ahead.
that's what I was going to say. You weren't married. You weren't, yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
taking care of yourself.
It was all on me. So I had to sort of, well, what I started doing was just making connections. I had a couple of events under my own name coming up. I ended up connecting with actually one of your cousins, Beth Costa, on accident, did not know she was our cousin, and ended up working a wedding with her. And I just started like giving my information to people and being like, hey, trying to connect and network really. And I went back to a venue that um, we were the preferred photographers at under our partnership, and that venue had let us go. And I went back to them and was like, "Hey, I just want you to know the partnership is dissolved. I'm on my own now. If you need a photographer," I just started putting myself out there like that, and they eventually did. They brought me back, and then one of the girls who worked there went to another venue and she brought me into that venue. And that's
Nice.
really what allowed me to start my business. So I sort of gave myself 6 months. I was like, all right, I've got 6 months of, stuff that will float me financially. And if I cannot keep it together after 6 months, then I'm going to have to, get a job somewhere and, do this on the side. But those relationships that I built and then continued to nurture um, ended up by the end of that year, not only fully sustaining my business, but having me needing more people. And I immediately had to start bringing people on because I couldn't handle the workload that they were throwing my way by myself. So it just sort of like took off from there just by relationship building, really.
Nice. That's such a good skill to have. We talked about networking with Michelle. We talked about it with Caleb as well, that your circle is so important and that it's so important to put yourself out there and make sure that you share what the business of you. We're all salespeople. Doesn't matter what business you're in. Even, everyone's a salesperson. I mean, I'm just thinking it doesn't matter what job you're in, you're selling you,
Mm-hmm.
not to mention the company that you work with. So what do you think, what scared you the most about going out on your own?
Failing. I think I I knew that I had the personality for it, and I knew that I could build relationships. Like that's definitely a skill that I think I grew into and really mastered. And again, I learned a lot from that partnership of what not to do and things that I saw very clearly that I felt were not ethical business practices. And so I sort of that actually took some of the fear away from me because I knew what I wouldn't do. I knew I wouldn't be burning bridges. I knew that I would be building bridges and making relationships and making friends. And I started to realize very quickly that you can be the best photographer in the world, but if you're a jerk and people don't like you, like your business is going to go under. It's more important. I heard this quote somewhere that has stuck with me that it's and of course I'm going to mess up the percentage, but it's only 10% what you do, it's 90% how you do it or something along those lines. It's not about being a photographer, it's about how you're a photographer. It's about how you treat people. It's about how you run your business that
Mhm.
leaves a good or bad taste in people's mouths. And so I think the biggest concern for me and the biggest fear was, what if I don't get enough work? What if I can't pay my bills? What if I have to go back to a 9 to 5? And that fear is kind of, I guess, what fueled me to bust my butt because I didn't want to go back to a 9 to 5.
Yeah, right. So, not sure if you've read Fear is My Homeboy by Judy Holler, but she
Mm-mm.
talks about knowing your
No.
superpower, that thing that makes you stand out. So, what do you think is your superpower?
I believe that my superpower is my ability to build relationships. I have built relationships with every person on my team, with every venue that I work at, and they're genuine. It's not like I think that this industry is really difficult to navigate. And even though I once would just have described myself as a very shy person. Lots of things that my mom and Aunt Michelle taught me and showed me when I was in high school and dealing with that fear um, are what have made me today a good relationship builder. So I just feel like I just make friends everywhere I go, and um, you know, people like that and they want to feel like there's a personal touch. And of course, we extend that to our clients tenfold because we want our clients to feel like they're the only ones, even though they're not. We want them to feel like everything we do with them is as special as the next person. And I think that's what has continued to keep me with these venues, keep my team um, on my side and happy and just treating people like people.
Yep. I I agree. When we were running a restaurant and event facility in Orange County, we always tried to make sure that our guests, our customers, our clients, our wedding people, it was all around. I mean, it was restaurant customers. I would hold their baby so that they could eat. You know how it is when you go out to eat,
Yeah.
one of you has to hold
Yeah.
that kid. Neither of you gets one of you isn't getting a hot meal. So, I mean, I remember some customers, I would take their baby so that they could eat, and they loved it. And it created a
Yeah.
sense of family, and it's so important. And wedding people, I would have people come and ask me for a proposal, and I would talk to them and I would give them a proposal, and then I would tell them, you know definitely go see what else is out there, and if you have any questions about what they're telling you, by all means give me a call. I always put myself out there so that they knew they had a resource, even if they didn't choose to go with me. And I think that went a long way.
Hmm.
um,
Absolutely. I've done the same. I've had people come to me and say, this is our budget. And Like I'm at a place in my business where our prices are our prices, and I have to say, I'm sorry, I can't accommodate that budget. But here are the most important questions to ask when you're talking to a photographer in that budget. I try to guide them for two reasons. One, I don't care if you hire me or you hire somebody else. I just want to make sure that you're well taken care of, because you can't do this over with a wedding. Um, and we do all kinds of sessions, but weddings you cannot redo. So you want to give them those guidelines, but it also shows them that you're an expert at what you do. And I've had many people come back and their budget has changed now because they see what's out there, and they see that the what's offered is not the same, and then they start to understand and appreciate the price difference, because they see what they're getting with our team versus the $1,200 wedding photographer.
Right. Yeah, for sure. So Mel Robbins and Judy Holler talk about habits they have that keep them on track and motivated. Do you have any habits that you feel have helped you succeed?
I do. So in 2020, I almost lost my business. It was, as you know, I'm sure it was the same for you. Um, I, for the first time in my entire life, was on unemployment and struggling to keep my doors open. And there was a day in January 21 that I woke up at like 4 in the morning. I don't know why I have my best ideas in the middle of the night, but I do. I woke up at like 4 in the morning and I thought, how do I pandemic proof my business? Like, what do I do so that I don't get caught like this ever again? And I got up and I started writing notes at 4 in the morning, these ideas that were just coming in my head. And one of them was a podcast that I listened to about photography business. Listened to the podcast, and one of the episodes that next day, and I hadn't listened to it in a while, but one of the episodes that next day was a photography business coach out of Australia. And I was like, that's it. I need a coach. I need somebody to teach me how to expand into not just wedding photography, and how to do it well. And so I hired a business coach who has gotten the daily routine like drilled into me. And so my habits, thanks to that, and always, other than always, furthering my education, I meditate daily. Meditate for about 10 minutes a day. And I have a daily mantra that while I'm brushing my teeth is taped up on the inside of my cabinet, and I read it in my head every single morning. And then I get my coffee, and then I start my day. So I start every morning with an ice cold glass of water, meditation, and my mantra on the days that my kids don't keep me up all night anyways, which is not always perfection, but that's my
Right.
my most productive days are when I have all those habits in place and I stick to them.
Love that. I tell everyone that I work with that they absolutely need to make sure they take time for themselves, and they make sure that they give themselves that time to calm down, to be quiet. It's so important that you take a minute before you jump into the rest of your day. It's important for you. And like they say, when you're in an airplane and the airplane and the airbag things come down, you put it on yourself before you put it on your kid, and there's a reason. So important that you get a little you time, right?
Absolutely.
And I love that you said, you must have read my notes, because one of my questions was, do you have a coach, a mentor, a mastermind group that you belong to that helped you get started or expand your business? So you just told us about your coach, which is awesome. I, of course, have been coaching people for the last several years. And of course, I highly believe in it. I strongly believe in it. It's just so good to keep you on track and make you feel maybe a little bit more accountable and we all need that. We have dreams, but if we're not holding ourselves accountable, we're not taking the steps necessary, right?
Even coaches need coaches.
Yeah, I mean, look at the best athletes in the world. They all have coaches. So it's got to tell you something.
Absolutely. My coach helped me completely transformed my business in 21 from just a shoot and burn wedding photography company to a full service studio. I opened my own space in the last year. It really has, and I am a part of his mastermind group now as well. And I do one-on-one coaching with him. I keep losing this AirPod. Um, and I mean, it's been complete worth every penny and totally invaluable. And I recommend it to everybody that I know. If you can find a mentor or a coach, it's we have to always be educating ourselves and always um, looking for the next thing, and sometimes it takes an outside source to show you what that is or to make you think slightly differently about the way that you're doing things, or even just help you build your confidence and see how good you can be and get you over that fear hump of people aren't going to pay that or people aren't going to want to do that. Having that support system is in addition to the coaching, just that support is invaluable.
Absolutely. You talked a little bit about how you decided you needed to pandemic proof your business, and you came up with some pretty creative ideas. I love that little Santa camper that you did, and there were um, you are not just putting out ads saying we'll do your wedding. You do other fun stuff, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we do family portraits. We do senior portraits now. For many years, we just did weddings, and I did a handful of family portraits as they kind of came to me from past clients, but I didn't really push it. But as now a mom of two, I realized very quickly how hard it is to be away for 10 hours every Saturday and Sunday from my daughters. And realized again through my coaching that I could be just as, if not more profitable, um, doing family portraits as weddings. And so I still have my team doing weddings. I do a couple a year now myself, but I now am sort of heading up the family portrait side and the sessions with Santa that I did 2 years ago. Actually is probably going to be back by popular demand this year, which is cool. We didn't do it last year, but I think we're going to do it again this year.
Mm-hmm. And the pandemic, were you able to shoot any weddings during 2020? You were in California, so most venues were shut down, right?
Yeah. hmm The venues were shut down, hard shut down for I don't even know how long, but almost the entire year. There was a point in, I think, June of 2020 where they started to lift some of the restrictions, and then the Delta variant hit, and they shut down again within 2, 3 weeks. So no standard weddings. We did a couple of backyard weddings, but it was everything went from a full 8 hour plus event to hey, can you come shoot for 2 hours here or
Yeah.
there? And so I would say we probably, as a studio who does 100 plus every year, that year we did probably less than 10 total events. So
Wow.
it was almost a complete wash for us. Yeah. And yeah, it was stressful. I mean, I was fortunate that I have, now I'm married and had a husband whose business did well. So I actually took all my unemployment and just put it into my business to keep my doors open because I still had to pay all the bills for my business. Um, and
Wow.
yeah, I mean, I had a lot of breakdowns that year, thinking that I was losing everything I built for all these years. But I just did what I could, and again, thankfully had that support system so that the mortgage still got paid, and I could keep my doors
Right.
open.
So, what advice would you give anyone wanting to start a photography business or any business for that matter?
Find a coach. Find a coach, find a mentor. Truly, I think that nobody succeeds alone. And I think that there's a pressure out there for people starting their own business to know it all and do it all by themselves. But we all have gotten help. And I think that the best thing that you can do is make those connections and find somebody who's willing to advise you or coach you. Either way, whether it's just a mentor, somebody that you know and admire, or find a resource, somebody that can just give you the tools that you need. Because there is I went to college. I got my degree in photography, but it didn't teach me anything about business. That I've sort of had to learn on my own and through friends and networking and things like that. And those connections are everything.
Yay, yay. I'm so glad you said that. Of course, I wholeheartedly agree. Coaching is one of my favorite things to do ever. I get just as excited about wins for the people I work with as they do. So I definitely believe in it. I definitely believe in working with someone. I mean, so even if you feel you can't afford it, find someone that you can partner with and work together. You can be there for each other and talk to each other. You've got to make a commitment to yourself in that way, for sure.
Absolutely.
Thanks
Absolutely.
so very much for joining me today, Brianna. I really appreciate you taking the time out to be with me. I love your insight. I love your energy. Hey, I see that we do have Anne is visiting us in the studio. I don't know if she has any questions for you. Christopher, is our producer, and I think he's watching the Facebook chats. Do we have any questions for Brianna before we move on and say goodnight? I'm looking to see if anybody's chatting. I see we have Darby. Thanks for joining us, Darby and Diane. So thanks for saying hi. Appreciate it. One of the things that Brianna talked about was her morning routine. And I think it's important that everybody know, all right, we all have different times that work for us, but I think in the morning it's the best, just because your day hasn't started yet. You haven't been bombarded with all the things that happen to you throughout your day. So I think the morning is the best time. Some people feel like they need to decompress, so at the end of the day is better for them. Brianna, did you try the end of the day, or is the morning time the best for you?
Yeah, I mean, I completely agree with you. The morning is where it's at. And I am somebody who my joke was, I have a policy against getting up before the sun. I am not a morning person at all. But I have become one. I taught myself to be one. It is hard to get up before the sun, but 5 a.m. is my favorite time of day now. As much as I hate when my alarm goes off, that nice cold glass of water wakes your system up, and it's quiet, it's peaceful. My phone's not blown up. My kids are still asleep most of the time. And it's so peaceful, and I feel like I am the most energized bright and early. At the end of the day, I'm wiped. I forget it. I don't want to do anything after dinner. So
right,
I
me
would agree.
too.
Definitely.
I get home from work and get into my pajamas.
Yep.
All right. Well,
I like
thanks
to be in bed
again.
by
I appreciate your
8,
time.
9 o'clock.
Oh, right. Well, because 5 a.m.'s a dirty word.
It is.
All right. So thanks so much for joining me. I also need to thank Chris Hutchinson for producing this episode. Join me next time, Sunday, September 11th at 6 p.m. Central, 4 p.m. Pacific time, when I talk with Ginny St. Lawrence. Ginny's an accomplished entrepreneur, investor, philanthropist, and abstract artist. She owns OPT, the largest astronomy equipment online retailer. She takes care of NASA, Microsoft, JPL, MIT, and Google. She's also a nationally and internationally collected abstract artist and has a new project, Finance Wives. So we'll find out about that. Ginny believes everything you desire in this life can be yours. You have to see it, you have to believe it, dream it, and then go create it. That's going to be a fun show. Why am I doing this podcast? because it's important to me that you know we all have it in us to succeed. My guests weren't born into royalty. They're normal people like you and me who saw an opportunity and they ran with it. Listen every other Sunday at 6 p.m. Central for tips, tricks, and just plain old inspiration. And if you're looking for more specific help with your restaurant or hospitality business, check out www.yourrestaurantmaven.com, read my blog, and connect with me for coaching and consulting opportunities. Thanks again, and see you next time.